Hey, look who it is, Rob Mahoney.
Man, thank God Ethan is gone.
Indeed. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well. I've been ringing the doorbell here for like an hour, but you guys weren't answering, so what can I
do? Well, you're on now, and we did save Tom. You don't have to deal with Zach. You get to just hang out with Tom, which is pretty cool and always a special occasion.
Oh, of course.
Let's just. I guess you covered a team that won the NBA Finals, and that's basically a non-story right now. Is that weird in Dallas? I mean, have people moved on from the Mavericks to the Cowboys, or what's going on there?
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. By the time Cowboys training camp rolled around, no one was really going to be paying attention to the Mavs and their postseason celebrations anyway. So, I mean, it's not that, unusual that kind of thing would happen. It's very much football-centered here in Texas. So the fact that the Mavs are a secondary or tertiary storyline at this point is not surprising at all.
Yeah. We'll bring Tom in here to talk all three because I want to bring up an issue we talked about, which was Tyson Chandler, and he's someone who's been injury prone, but he's also someone who we've both written about is incredibly vital to the Mavericks. If they don't have him or if he gets hurt, to what degree can Brendan Haywood step in?
I think the interesting thing to see will be what the effect of last season was on Haywood psychologically. Because I think in terms of how he performs as a player, I think it's very, very solid. A great interior defender. He can work in the post. He can defend the pick and roll well. He'll get open dunks now and again. He's not much of an offensive threat. But I'm interested to see that if Chandler leaves in free agency, how Haywood would respond to having the starting job again. Because, as has been documented in the past, he hasn't always dealt well with coming off of the bench and hasn't always had the best attitude about that kind of thing. And whether he holds that against Rick Carlisle or the team would be interesting to see. I mean, there's no really indication to think that now, especially, he was the good soldier all throughout the playoffs. But, I'm interested to see how he would perform back in that role. I think he's very solid. He's not as good as Chandler, but the Mavs wouldn't be, they would still make the playoffs, still be a very good team, just wouldn't quite be on the same level.
Hey Rob,
Tom,
I gotta
add to that? Okay.
Yeah, well, before we get into it, what's up, Rob? Before we get into that, I believe you have written a book called Mavericks Stampede. Is that correct?
Oh wait, I think that might be it right there in the background there.
Oh, hey, can we get a plug on that, Rob?
Product plug. Yeah, I have a full infomercial coming on right after this program, so I'll spare the watchers that for now.
I can't believe you've written a book, and especially I saw you during the finals, and the whole time, what were you like? Were you writing it during the finals? Because you turned that thing around like the next day, like the next morning, in fact.
Yeah, it was during the series itself. I think it was after Game 2 that I first started talking to the publishers about the possibility of doing it, and so it was just after every game, kind of keeping up with recapping the season, recapping the playoffs, doing all that stuff. But yeah, it was definitely a pretty quick process.
So I want to talk Tyson Chandler.
Sorry, go ahead, Tom.
Look, keep going. I was going to say I wanted to. Excuse me. I wanted to talk about Tyson Chandler, but first, that's incredible. How old are you? 20.
I'm like 15, 14, I think.
15. Okay. But to publish a book, that's an amazing accomplishment. So
thank you so much, Tom.
But what do you think about Mark Cuban's reaction to the finals? What is he going to do next year? Is he going to be still the reckless spender that he was in the past, or is he going to tone it down because he's got his ring and he wants to save some money? What's he going to do? What do you think?
Well, here's the thing is, and we've seen this, from Mark throughout kind of this CBA negotiation process, is that he doesn't want to be that guy. Like, I don't think he wants to be the owner who's spending, so much out of pocket season after season after season. But, the rules allow it, and he thinks it gives his team a competitive advantage. So it really depends on, I think, how these negotiations go and what the new collective bargaining agreement allows him to do. Because he's basically begging, the negotiators to get him away to stop spending as much money as he is. And if they can pull that off, then I think you'll see him fall a lot more in line with what a lot of the other teams are spending.
Yeah, I wonder about that, and I've written that I don't think that I don't know if there's a way to legislate frugality amongst the NBA owners. I mean, I think that putting in the cap will help. I mean, that will obviously just stop them from spending on salary. But Cuban's also spent a ton on the facilities. He spent a ton on the practice facilities. He spent big money on the jets. I mean, to me, it seems like owners will find a way, owners who want to, will find a way to differentiate themselves by the things that they can provide to players. And, the non-player costs have also skyrocketed, and there's really no accounting for that. And, I see Cuban being so competitive still and being one of the owners who will find ways to spend.
Oh, no, I completely agree. I mean, he's very much of this kind of, if I can borrow the phrase from, our good friend Jonah Carey, this kind of extra 2% mentality where whether it's, the advanced stats, whether it's the best locker rooms, the private plane, he's going to do whatever it takes to gain that slight competitive edge. And so I think the spending will still be there in those regards. But in terms of actual player salary, I think, we may see him be reluctant to take on, to go over, a super tax line or something like that in the future, depending on how the CBA shakes out.
Sure.
Rob, where do you feel about JJ Barea? Do you want him back, or do you feel like we can probably do away with that and go with Rowdy Beaubois?
I mean, it's all about how much they can get him for. It depends on. I mean, right now, we saw I can't remember where he was exactly in NBA rank, but he was in the top 100. Based on the voting of our distinguished panel of ESPN voters. And so if NBA GMs kind of hold that same opinion, if NBA GMs think that JJ Barea is a top 100 NBA player, then the Mavericks should absolutely let him go. They should not be paying that kind of competitive salary to keep him on the team, especially when as you mentioned. Yeah, I mean, Beaubois could do a lot of the same things that he could, and as I've written before, Dominique Jones I think is ready to kind of step into that kind of role off the bench too. And so, plus, I mean, if you're trying to find minutes for guys like Corey Brewer also, I mean, you're going to want to clear up space somewhere. And so maybe it's Jason Terry shifting into more point guard responsibilities. Maybe it's Beaubois or Jones. But, if the price is too high on Barea, they should not hesitate at all. Just let him go.